If one thing was to mark Queen Elizabeth's reign as the British monarch, it was a sense of duty, a spark that ignited even as the British Empire began to crumble in the aftermath of World War II.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
That moment came in 1947. It was the year of India's independence. The UK was economically shattered in the aftermath of global conflict, and all too soon a young Elizabeth would find herself thrust into ruling more rapidly than anyone could have known. Her father, King George VI, had died prematurely at 57 after just 15 years on the throne. It left the new queen to navigate a hard path much earlier than expected. She would see the numbers of those under British rule plummet from 700 million to just 5 million over the next decade and a half, as colonies and dominions once part of the empire sought self-determination. Waiting in the wings, the Commonwealth of Nations, a grouping once bound by the crown but now by common history, values and democracy. A grouping of which Queen Elizabeth would remain the symbolic chief, and on which she would forge her royal identity.
Nowhere else has parliamentary democracy demonstrated more effectively its soundness and its adaptability to changing times.
It wasn't all smooth sailing. The 20th century's social and political changes were piling up, and it had long been clear the Commonwealth wasn't going to replace the British Empire. Free markets and global commerce outstripped trade among its members, which had no obligation to one another, short of respect for Queen Elizabeth, who devoted herself to the organisation. Politics, though, would play a role, as nations left and rejoined, and governments fell in and out of favour, such as South Africa's apartheid regime. The entire Commonwealth, apart from the UK, at least initially, levied sanctions against it in the 1980s. As the years moved on, the Queen's massive accumulation of experience on the international stage only ever stood her in better stead.
In tomorrow's world, we must all work together as hard as ever if we are truly to be United Nations.
A trickle of nations removed her as head of state over the years, though relations remained warm as she continued to head up the Commonwealth. Nevertheless, some member states wished to step further out of the shadow of empire, with Barbados becoming the latest to choose to sever ties to the monarchy in 2021, and periodic calls elsewhere for nations to become republics. Still, the Commonwealth's 54 nations now have decisions to make. Just how the association will cope without the extraordinary relationship with the woman who helped to create it, and which direction it will take.